Welcome back to another episode of the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and also the CEO and founder of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Søren Bradbury, the CEO and co-founder of Digica. Søren, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for the invite.
So, kick us off. Tell me a little bit more about your journey, Søren, and what did Digica do?
Okay, so a little bit about my journey. I had a web development company, and which I ran successfully, and then I sold that in end of 2019. We had a great investor that came in, and he wanted to build a much bigger digital services company. And in June 2020, we purchased a company called Enigma Pattern and brought the two companies together, and we called Digica. And we are trying to create a company which delivers practical AI for business, very much business-focused AI solutions that solve real-world challenges without overcomplicating the process. We very much focus on that seamless integration into the business, and we're very much heavily focused looking at return on investment-driven solutions for our clients. So we're a team which is headquartered in the UK. A lot of our engineering resource sits over in a city called Łódź in Poland, which is about an hour's drive away from Warsaw. And we've got a business development operation over in San Francisco, because about 6% of our sales happens in North America. And we're very heavily focused on AI and software. So we work in computer vision, machine learning, LLM, and embedded in the software developments.
Amazing. So, Søren, I think being the CEO and the co-founder of any business, there's always challenges, there's always hiccups especially when integrating companies as well. So do you mind kicking us off with telling us some of the challenges you faced and how you've overcome them?
Integrating the two companies was fairly easy. Both were fairly small. Click Digital was really small and Enigma Pattern was a little bit larger, but it was nicely coming together. A lot of my co-founders here in the UK that came and joined me had previously worked with Polish teams, so they kind of understood the slight culture difference over there. So we kind of very quickly moved that together. We certainly did some emotional intelligence training, and coaching with our team, which helped the young data scientists and software engineers kind of improve their emotional intelligence, improve their communication, and feel confident in growing themselves. So that's kind of been super successful. Going out to the marketplace and being a leader in AI, and certainly in 2020 when we were doing that, we were very unique in that marketplace working for that. And we've delivered over 300 projects for major companies and innovative smaller companies that are trying to drive innovation across the globe. And one big challenge we had is finding really good quality staff, and we've developed a Digica AI Academy. We take junior data scientists into that academy, and we then run 12-month program where they're learning different aspects of AI, as well as working on projects, and then they graduate. So we've got a nice stream now of potentially the way that we can grow our business and grow our data scientists. And of course, the harder bit is just as well trying to get that sales and marketing. So sales and marketing is something that we're trying to move further forward as we try to scale the business.
Amazing. And with you guys being specialized in AI-powered software, you guys are in multiple different industries, defense, medical. How do you tailor your AI solutions to meet the unique needs of these different sectors?
To begin with, majority of our projects have been driven by our customers, so their specific needs, whether they're a camera manufacturer looking for enhanced AI algorithms that will help with infrared, thermal, etc. detection. Sometimes it's been in manufacturing, looking at digital twins, looking at operational performance improvements. But when we've actually had some downtime and we've actually had a bench, our CTO and the team have invested in building what we call our AI SDK, and that's given us small pocket-sized chunks of functionality that we can start to sell. So we're now starting to see that where we're actually selling the IP, selling it via a license. So our very first application that's just gone live is a face detection and recognition application. Now we can start to see that we're actually seeing commonality across industries. So a colleague of mine was at ISC West earlier this month, and one of the key elements that he saw in this surveillance and security expo was very much face detection as well as radar. So this is something that we're starting to see. The product's starting to become, and now we're starting to sell. Here's our product, which has got the core IP in it. We're going to license this to you, and then we have a customization fee for customizing for how you want and integrating it into your system. So we will start to see more of a product kind of going in rather than pure spec, where we were 5 years ago. It was definitely proof of concept driven by an R&D director.
And I think AI is a massive, let's say, buzzword. I think there's constantly new things coming out. Obviously, ChatGPT just brought out the new image generator, which I think everyone is going mad about. Where do you see it going next? I mean, how do you see it shaping the industry, and what do you think is going to happen in terms of companies who don't adopt to it?
Okay, well, it's going to be easy for the ones that don't adopt to it. If they don't adopt it, they will see their efficiency and productivity drop compared to other competitors, and so they will soon be out of business. So adopting AI is a bit like adopting the web 1.0 when you first started. I know you mentioned that you run an e-commerce system company. If you're not in e-commerce and you're trying to sell to consumers, you're dead. So it's going to become the de facto kind of standard of how it is. So I see a lot of good that's happening with AI. You obviously see a lot in press, and everyone's concerned about jobs and what AI potentially could do as evil. But I mean, there's a lot of positives about it. So everything, even here in the UK, we've been involved in cancer detection, looking at scans and looking for cancers in lungs and also in breast cancer. And I see that, here in the UK, they're starting now to say, actually, do you know what, those detectors are as good as a radiologist. They still have one radiologist looking at it, but they're now using an AI tool to kind of evaluate it as well, make sure that second pair of eyes rather than having two radiologists. So now potentially they can do twice as many scans and hopefully improve the health of the nation. So I see a lot of positives in AI. In terms of other things, such as we were talking to an electrical wholesaler. They've got, I can't remember now, 5 or 7 big warehouses in the US. They have 200 different suppliers who supply them electronic equipment. It could be anything from diodes through to other electrical elements. They come in boxes. Ideally, they would like to have a barcode that's nice and easy to read. Some suppliers are perfect. Others are absolutely appalling. And they manually scan, and each item as it comes in. And if they can't read it from the scanner, they type it in, and then it goes into their system that generates a ticket, which they kind of apply to the box, which is their consistent kind of readout. And they're just starting now to put it onto a conveyor belt, and the barcode reader will read it. But about 50% of the barcodes aren't being read because there's something wrong with the barcode that needs to be differently formatted. Now, by using our system, that all of a sudden allows them to accelerate that, and they're getting that stock much quicker into the system, because we're reading the barcode, we're reading the QR code, we're reading the text, and then we're creating the label for them. So it just improves their quality and the performance element, and they can actually start to distribute product much, much more efficiently than they were doing in the past.
And companies are maybe integrating AI within their systems. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions they get when integrating AI, and why do you think some of them potentially don't see the same results as other companies?
I think sometimes people think AI is the panacea of everything, a bit like probably 15, 20 years ago. I've got an e-commerce system, fabulous, that sorted my sales out, and that doesn't sort your sales out. So I think it's the thing where people perceive it as the panacea, just apply AI and it will solve everything. In reality, what it does, it starts to help improve that process. So it could be anything from a medical claims call center that gets medical claims in, looks at a medical claim, and then says, okay, yes, that's definitely under the insurance claim that works, or that's definitely out. So either one 1 and 2 means definitely in, and 9 and 10 means definitely out. And you have a call center of a lot of people reading these and starting to grade them. And then anything that's kind of in the gray section, they kind of escalate up in the elements. And then by using AI and being sensible about it, you can start to say, hey, can I process some of those much quicker, and I can get that more quickly done. And so they'll see that potentially they might reduce the amount of people that are in the call center, but they'll start to get a reputation for actually processing claims much, much faster, and potentially will start to sell more premiums and gain more premiums from selling more policies to the medical device. So I see there's kind of big improvements, but I think it's the same thing as when you started to put in Web 2.0. If you didn't actually sit down and do a business analysis, you didn't understand what you're trying to get to. And so it's a matter of looking at the process, understanding what the return on investment is and what you're trying to do, and taking it step by step, what we kind of call just practical AI.
And you mentioned at the start, Zoran, about you guys have delivered over 300 projects. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you had within delivering them 300 projects, and how did you guys get around that?
One of the biggest challenges that we had and still have today is data. So getting data allows us then to train the detectors and train the algorithms how to operate in real world. And a lot of our projects are often computer vision projects. So everything from, we were working with a company that's got a doorbell camera, and they wanted us to improve people detection. People detection was already in the camera out of the box. We improved it, and they said that's great. But what we really want to have is package detection. So, okay, well, how much video have you got of package detection? Not a lot. So we looked around and found some publicly available data sets that you could use on a commercial basis and started to train the model, but we needed more data. And so we've created a way of synthetically creating this visual data, which allows us then to have a much wider breadth of data that we can go and train those models. And this allowed us to, just purely on that package detection, to get that model to perform better than anyone else in the marketplace. So we use synthetic data, we mix that with real data, and then managed to train the model on a really high performance of detecting packages and package detection, and also package theft. Because in the US, a lot of packages are left on the doorstep, and unfortunately, some people walk up to the doorstep and help themselves to whatever package is sitting on the doorstep. It's data has often been the issue with us. We're working with a very large agricultural farming operation here in the UK, and we're putting all their data together into a software application. And what they want to eventually do is to actually predict yield. What's the harvest going to be? But they've only got 5 years worth of data. And so they go and try and buy data in the marketplace, and the reporting of that data is very variable. Sometimes if it's farmer to farmer, they might tell you that they grow the best wheat and barley and they have a massive yield. Yet in their financial accounts, they might report something different. So trying to use other people's data doesn't really work. So with this particular group, we're going to have to wait until they've got 7-10 years worth of data in terms of the tabular. So data is the biggest challenge for us, and we've created a tool which allows us to create that synthetic data, which allows us to create edge cases. If, for example, you're looking at, looking for anomaly detection on some really beautiful high-end leather seats that go into luxury sports cars, and they're looking to say, hey, instead of Søren or Jakob looking at these stitching to see if it's right, let's use a camera to monitor that. And we can say, great, well, give us a picture of the seat, give us some pictures of some bad stitching that you found in the past. They can only hopefully give you a very small sample, but then by using our synthetic data and by using that, we can then start to create that and show all the edge cases, of all of a sudden the stitching goes sideways instead of vertical, or there's a kink in it. So we can really use that to kind of give us those edge cases and then train our detectors to perform highly in the real world.
And what do you think's next for AI? What do you think is going to come into the world of AI and how it's going to shake up the market?
Well, I think Gen AI is massive. It's come in and it's created it's just moved those conversations about AI that we were having back in 2020, 21 and 22 to another level now. And every single company is asking, what do I need to do to implement AI in my company? And that's been predominantly, ChatGPT that's driven that kind of view of it. But everything I see that from everything from just trying to write a document here, give me some ideas, evaluate my ideas. I'm writing some code, evaluate my code, tell me what bit of code I need to write here, etc. Those bits are happening, but I kind of see that coming even further. So, we were talking to a design house that designs carpets, and they're high-end carpet designs, and they get a creative brief from the creative agency that's working on a luxury hotel, or for example, and the designer writes a creative brief and it's pretty damn poor. And then the designers then take that, they try to interpret that, and then they come back with some designs. The client says, hey, you missed it entirely. They can't quite say to the client, yeah, but your brief was really poor, so why would you expect it to come back better? So it ends up being very much an iterative cycle which takes a long, long time. And by using Gen AI, what you can do potentially is you can have that brief come in, and maybe the person's even put some images there, can use a large language model and to start to look at those images and interpret those images, give you those images, and also then, even in this particular case, look back at previous designs. This company's got something like 250 years worth of carpet designs. They've obviously been photographed and they've got keywords against it, but the keyword search is pretty appalling. And then you can use that to kind of come back and say, hey, by the way, maybe you want to look back at our historical ones. Here are 5 carpets that kind of match that brief, or you should use this as inspiration for you. So they're not seeing it as a way of changing the total creativity or the creative idea of it. What they're seeing is a way of seeing that actually Gen AI can help improve the quality of the information that you would brief to the designer, and then help the designer pull lots of information together. So the designer spends more time actually thinking creatively about the design rather than the administration of putting bits of information and getting everything there. They haven't yet done anything yet, but they're looking at saying that, hey, this should reduce the time that it takes me to get a final design approved by the hotel, by the clients. That will reduce the number of hours I need to spend on this. I can actually sell more carpets, because that's quite often it's a case of, yeah, thanks very much, Jakob, for the extra brief that you sent in today. But, it's going to be next week before my designers can get onto it. And if they can do that faster, then they can sell more.
Just lastly, Zoran, what are some of the goals and you've got for the company over the next 12 months or so?
We want to grow our revenue by 20%. We want to really firmly establish some of our IP products so that we can start to sell licenses rather than just one-off projects, etc., and build that recurring revenue for us.
Amazing. And if people wanted to reach out, find out more about you guys, where's the best place for them to do that?
The website, www.digica.com, or drop me an email, Søren, Soren.
Amazing. Well, Zoran, thank you so much for joining me again on the podcast. It's been great to just speak about AI, where it's going. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing your expertise and taking the time out of your day to come on. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Amazing.